morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butonoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can leave a comment on the live stream as well on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. He's back from Canada.
He made it.
Pat Kreitlow from Mornings with Pat Kreitlow is going to be joining us after the 9:30 news. Lots of things to talk about with Pat, including the Wisconsin state budget, which continues to languish.
Yeah, they're just not going to do their homework.
Let's just not do anything, shall we?
Yeah.
Again, we've talked many times about how good they are at not accomplishing things.
The best.
They really are the best.
Maybe if they don't accomplish it long enough, the budget will just do itself.
It'll fix itself somehow.
Exactly.
Pat Kreitlow joining us after the 9:30 news. Hour number 2, retired Major General Randy Manner will be here, spent more than 30 years in the Army. He has joined us many times over the past few months, and we're going to be talking about a number of things, including Trump's vanity parade on Saturday, Trump's recent appearance at Fort Bragg, where he was encouraging the troops to boo Democrats. And then, of course, the situation between Israel and Iran, which has just happened in the last couple of days and is obviously an ongoing concern. So Randy Manner will be here at 10:06. Last half hour of the show. Yesterday's audio sorbet caused some internal angst. Internal strife here at Civic Media.
Could we say there was, what experts call it, bickering?
I would say some modest bickering.
Yeah.
Over yesterday's audio sorbet, which was about bagels, toasted or no. That was the burning question of that segment.
Pun.
That too. Which, again, devolved into this whole internal debate about cupcakes.
Yeah, it really made its way through the annals.
We started at bagels and toasted or no, and then that went into cupcakes and whether or not cupcakes are a frosting delivery system. So we're going to delve into that after the 10:30 news. Very passionate. People very, very passionate about some of this stuff.
Are you listening, WBA? We're covering the tough topics here.
Where else are you going to find that, huh? Where else?
Paul Harvey. Who?
Yeah.
Edward R. Murrow.
Oh,
okay.
Please.
Please.
And then we'll wrap up the show as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it's the Take a Seat edition. There is a video element involved that you're going to want to stick around for. So that's coming up at the very end of the show around 10:51-ish. Yeah. Just a reminder, thanks to everybody who took part in our statewide Text to Win Scotty Summer Contest. All kinds of winners. And we want to give a shout out to our grand prize winners who picked up either a getaway to Door County or the Baraboo area and gas to get you there. Got a little gas card. Trace, congratulations listening on WMDX in Madison. And Melissa, who was listening to WHSM in Hayward. We have a whole bunch of music stations, too. Civic Media is more than just talk radio.
Yes.
We have country music stations. We have Hot AC. We have great oldies here on WRJN.
Yes, we do. And then there's also Music of the Stars on Sundays
with Lou
Regani.
Yep.
That is just a festival of the golden age of music. He really curates that every single week.
Great Sunday morning companion for you no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Wanted to start off, though, with this. Derek Van Orden, Wisconsin's own, from the western part of the state. Of course, there was those horrific assassinations over the weekend against 2 Minnesota state lawmakers. One lawmaker and her husband killed, another Minnesota lawmaker and his wife seriously injured. They continue to recover. But Derek Van Orden put on his official account on social media, quote, "I am horrified by the attack on 2 Minnesota state lawmakers. Political violence has no place in America. I fully condemn this attack, along with all forms of political violence and intimidation," unquote.
What a great and measured response.
And a good statement.
Yes.
Right?
Great.
I think something that we can all agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was a day. Just a day later, on Derek Van Orden's personal accounts, here is what DVO said, quote, "Yesterday, a whole pack of election deniers got together and spewed hate. One of them decided to murder and attempt to murder some politicians that were not far left enough for them, unquote. Derek Van Orden, of course, in the 3rd Congressional District. That doesn't seem to be kind of the tone that I would like to see from our elected official.
Well, if one thing it did was it proved that whomever is running his congressional Twitter, someone else is writing that. He's not. I don't think he has the wherewithal, the brain ability
to put together something that compassionate.
That's simple and easy and to the point and just perfect. Just perfect. Instead, the second one you read was more on brand for him.
Him.
Spewing absolute conspiracy theory, absolute rhetoric, backed up with no proof, by the way. And for those who might be like, well, nope, I got into it this happened. The shooting happened on Saturday.
Yes.
And by Saturday afternoon, I had posted something about it on my social media, and someone from my family started doing the same thing DVO was doing. Far left Democrat. The Democrats weren't Democrat enough, and blah, 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 blah. I just waited like 48 hours until news stories came out, and I just said, hey, look, I love you. Happy Father's Day. Here is one story disputing what you're talking about, and there's been no response.
I bet.
And and everything he put on my social media is what DVO is saying. Everything. There's no proof to what they're saying. And you are doing a disservice to the memory of those who were murdered, and you're doing a disservice to those who are fighting for their lives, especially from a party who, anytime you want to bring up anything having to do with political violence, they want to bring in the attempted the attempt on President Trump's life last year, which was terrible.
Horrible.
But that's all they can talk about. It's not about these two in Minnesota who died. It's about, well, they didn't say enough to us and they were fine with us. It's like, can you just allow this moment to happen?
And acknowledge it.
This can be a thoughts and prayers moment if you want it to be. I mean, that's the thing. It used to be thoughts and prayers when this happened. Now it's, how have we been wronged? And I will use this situation to my advantage to get views, clicks, interaction, and clout.
Well, and this goes along with Senator Mike Lee. We had mentioned this yesterday.
What a trash pile.
Senator Mike Lee from Utah appeared to blame the assassination of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman on the left. This is what Mike Lee posted on social media. This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way. And he also posted another social media post with a photo of the gunman in a mask,
yes, and
then his actual face, and said, I'm drawing a blank now. It was a slam against Tim Walz.
Yeah, Nightmare on Wall Street.
Nightmare on Wall Street.
Yes, they've been doing their mark best to take this out on Tim Walz as well.
Yes. So Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota, after Mike Lee posted that, actually waited to confront him about this.
Yeah.
She walked across the chamber, out into the hall, asked to talk with Mike Lee. Tina Smith says, quote, "People like you and me don't talk to each other that much, but this feels like something we really need to talk about face to face." She said the sad reality is that for senators and other prominent elected officials, getting threats directed at you or your family is becoming commonplace. It's not unusual. So everybody, regardless of party, can relate to what it means to wake up and find out that your name is on a list that someone wants to kill. By the way, Mark Pocan, Tammy Baldwin, and Gwen Moore were on this suspects list.
Yeah.
Lee's office did not respond to a request for comment. Tina Smith has declined to say exactly what Lee told her when she confronted him. He indicated, of course, he meant no harm, but these things do cause harm. Of course, words have power.
Absolutely.
Words have power. Words mean... The pen is They say the pen is mightier than the sword for a reason.
And the tweet seems to be even more powerful nowadays. And frankly, I didn't mean to do anything. I didn't mean anything from it. I'm sorry. That's a 7-year-old's excuse.
I didn't mean anything. It was can't you take a joke?
Yeah, that is what a child says when they get in trouble. Instead of just saying, you know what, I was wrong, or honestly, be Mike Lee about it. Be like, I said what I said.
Well,
I'd-
I don't think Mike Lee, I don't even think Derek Van Orden, all they're doing is following the example of the person at the top of that party,
Mhm. Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yes.
President Trump asked yesterday, have you called Governor Walz yet? Here's how our president replied, quote, I don't want to call him. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. Why would I call? I could call him and say, hi, how are you doing? He's a mess. I could be nice and call him, but why waste time, unquote. That is why our lawmakers feel completely fine with posting stuff like that because they look to the top. They look to how Donald Trump behaves.
And there's no consequences. And once again, this is a situation where I will throw it into the laps of those who listen to us and those who watch us and disagree with 98% of the things we talk about. How is this acceptable behavior from your party leader, our president, and arguably the most powerful man in the world? And do not throw at me, well, did Tim Walz call Donald Trump when his wife was Nope, that's not the question right now. We're talking about in the moment and why the president of the United States of America gets to say such, and I'll say it, idiotic things to the press that makes him look trite and completely like a child. This is all child behavior.
Yes, it is.
This is all child behavior.
Yes.
We have elected children.
And what I always go back to is, will you raise your child to behave the way that Donald Trump does?
Yeah.
Is this what we're doing now with our kids? You never take responsibility unless things worked out.
Yes.
You never take responsibility unless things went your way. You blame someone else. You can belittle, demean, whatever, especially when people are grieving. No problem.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want.
It's not my problem.
You can say whatever you want to people. There are no consequences.
Yep. And if
Is this how we're raising our kids now?
I mean, I thought this was the party of personal responsibility, but obviously in the past, I don't know how many years now, that has gone to the wayside. I don't expect any. I mean, if Mike Lee, if he said, well, I didn't mean anything by it, that's it. Like I said, it's child's answer. I would pay money to charity to find out exactly what he said to
Tina Smith.
Because if he cowered down and said, I'm sorry, or you're right, or whatever, then you don't believe in what you're saying anyways. It's about clout. Because once you're confronted, like I said, if you really believed it, he should have said, deal with it.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Right.
But if he had any sort of apology or he doesn't believe this stuff. It's not what
He's just doing it for attention.
It's an act to make dear leader not look at him and say, wait, is Mike Lee not loyal enough?
I love that Mike Lee. I love that Mike Lee.
Says the right things to the right people all the time.
Join the conversation, 855-752-4842. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back. morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter after the 9:30 news. The host of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, the aforementioned Pat Kreitlow, will be joining us to talk all things Wisconsin, so I hope you can stick around for that. Hour number 2 after 10 o'clock, the 10 o'clock news. Retired Major General Randy Manner will be here. He has joined us numerous times over the past few months, and we're going to talk about a number of things, including the big ego parade on over the weekend for Donald Trump's 79th birthday and his recent speech at Fort Bragg, and, of course, the ongoing situation now between Israel and Iran. That's all coming up with Randy Manner after 10 o'clock. I did want to spend just a little time talking about this from the Wisconsin Examiner, Jennifer Shute, with the byline, 2/3 of those in a nonpartisan poll view the GOP's budget bill unfavorably. 2/3. And we've been seeing more of this in the last couple of days, that the more people learn about this budget bill, the less they like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The new survey finds nearly 2/3 of those polled, 64%, do not support the tax policy changes and spending cuts Republicans have included. When broken down, 13% of Democrats, 27% of independents view it favorably.
I mean, Jane, why wouldn't people like this? They only talked about it in the middle of the night and passed it in the middle of the night and did everything when, C-SPAN the cameras were on when it was happening.
Right.
But I mean, we trusted them to do to have our best interest in mind.
Of course we did. Of course, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which, by the way, is headed by a Republican. I'm going to say that again. The head of the CBO, the Congressional Budget Group, is headed by a Republican. And the CBO has said this is going to massively explode our deficit.
Ron Johnson has said that.
Yes.
Ron Johnson has
of
said
all people
to cut even more from poor people and working people and the working poor and all of us who are just normal working class. We needed to cut more because under this model, it would still increase the deficit by, what was it, $3 trillion?
It's a big jump.
Yeah. And what's funny is that we've talked extensively about the Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefit, the big cuts, the famous programs. But man, Jane, there are so many tiny little ones in there. And
yes.
I mean, the one that says we can't do any sort of oversight on AI for a decade.
Yeah. They slipped that in.
My God.
And then again, there are all these lawmakers going, oh, gosh, I didn't know that was in there.
I should have read it, Jane.
That seems bad.
Yeah.
Another thing in the budget bill that seems bad, it calls for the outright sale of public lands. So it mandates selling between 2 and 3 million acres of lands managed by the Bureau of Land Management to be put up for sale to any interested party. We are talking about 250 million acres of public lands will be eligible to be sold by any interested party.
And I think if this was 10, 15 years ago, a lot of people would say, oh, the oil people are going to come in. I don't think that's what's going to be. It's going to be hedge funds and private equity groups who are going to come in and put up a bunch of housing and then charge a bunch of rent for it. And more people will not be able to buy homes. This is not about affordable housing.
No.
It's not even about oil. Like, that's the thing is, like, we talked to Mr. Global about this. I doubt that they're going to be putting bids in to dig in these areas. It's going to be about selling it off to the highest bidder who wants to build 5,000 homes.
Really pricey ones.
Really pricey ones, and get people in there so they can make even more money on it. This is about... This is not about this is about strip mining the American dream, essentially.
Absolutely. We're talking about land in 11 states: Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. The provision has very limited exemptions: wilderness study areas, areas of critical environmental concern, critical habitat, all considered eligible for sale. Eligible for sale.
Again.
So again, on those limited restrictions, that still means more than 250 million acres of public lands that we hike on and fish on and camp on will be eligible to be sold to any interested party. And native tribes do not get first chance to bid on them either.
I'll bet you millionaires and billionaires even have a good heart say, I'll buy the land and just keep it the way it is, will be denied. And take us out of the equation for camping, hiking, and hunting. The animals whose entire migratory patterns, all their living patterns, all the things are going to be disrupted by us coming in and absolutely just destroying the world they live in. It will be that sort of thing has massive repercussions, and this is, once again, Congressman didn't read this.
Well, but again, we're not going to learn about the repercussions because we're not going to look at environmental impacts anymore.
No,
that's not even
right.
going to be.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's the environment.
Who cares?
It's a deer. Who cares?
Just build it.
Yeah.
Whatever. We're going to build,
Yep.
and drill.
That's
drill.
how maybe we'll make. Jane, maybe we'll build one of those manufacturing places that will make all those iPhones here in America. We haven't thought of that.
That's an idea.
I can't wait to pay $30,000 for an iPhone.
We have news coming up next, and then when we return, he hosts Mornings with Pat Kreitlow across the network from 6 to 9 a.m. Pat Kreitlow will be here. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. We got Brewers baseball action coming up later on today. Our broadcast starts at 6:30. The Crew at the Cubs. You can listen to the game on terrestrial radio on WRCE in Richland Center, WISS in Oshkosh, WRJN here in Racine and Kenosha, WCQM in Park Falls, and WBZH in Hayward. Crew at the Cubs. Our broadcast starts tonight at 6:30. He is the host of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow across the network from 6 to 9 a.m. Back from adventures in Canada, Pat Kreitlow is here. Good morning, Pat. How you doing?
Good day. How's it going?
Good day, Yeah.
Do you feel funnier?
Do I feel funnier?
Yeah.
No, I feel fatter. I had poutine for breakfast yesterday. It was awesome. Again, how did we not invent this in Wisconsin? We've got the cheese curds. We love gravy. We love French fries. Why did nobody else think to put this in a bowl before Canada did? God bless you, Canada. That was so good. Oh.
And I went to lunch with a friend yesterday, and they love going to Montreal, and we talked about poutine. For me, there's too much going on. There's too
I gotta
many,
go, everybody.
There's
It's
too
feeling
many
good.
things in the poutine. I can see the gravy and the fries with curds on the side, but I don't know that I want all that big mush all together.
Oh, I love that big mush. It was amazing, along with some Tim Hortons coffee and a donut from there, and it's all good. Which I got to do 2 mornings in a row since our Sunday flight home was canceled, and we had to stay an additional 24 hours. But we did manage to pull off the show yesterday from Canada, giving us, I believe, Civic Media's first international show.
Yes, our first international broadcast, Pat Kreitlow. Well done.
Does that does not make me Mr. Global or Mr. Worldwide. I believe Pitbull has that one. I'm not an international man of mystery.
For a Juno.
I'll take whatever I can get for having to go through all that yesterday. But we did it. We're back home in Chippewa Falls, and happy to be here.
I was listening on the way in this morning, and I did hear you, and this made me think of a friend who calls it the dummy check. And before she leaves a hotel room or before she leaves anywhere to go to the airport, she does one more spin and checks all the closets and everything. Because we've all done this, Pat.
Yes,
we have all left something when we're heading to the airport.
And at that point, this leads into my commercial for Apple tags or Air tags or whatever other things are out there that you use. We had left our friend's house. We were on our way to the airport. The tag gives you an alert when you're so far away from it, and it says on my phone, you and your luggage have become separated. I'm thinking, no, I haven't. My luggage is in the back of the car here.
It's in the trunk.
It's in the trunk, yeah, but I put the AirTag in the toiletry bag so that it wouldn't be too easy for somebody to remove it, with nefarious purposes.
Sure.
And sure enough, I left the toiletry bag in the facilities, and we had to go back for that. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, at least you knew you didn't get on the plane and then you realized, I left my thing there.
I would have my glasses and contacts and everything else there. So yeah, it's good to the technology.
Dummy check.
Dummy check.
Dummy check. Extra round before you leave the hotel room or wherever you're going.
Yep.
This was breaking as we were coming on the air this morning, Pat. So I think we'll start here about the state Supreme Court ruling, which strikes down some of the 2018 lame duck laws that attempted to remove powers from Attorney General Josh Kaul. So again, this is within the last hour or so that this broke.
And the real news is that this was unanimous. It was 7-0, saying that lame duck session, restricting some of Josh Kaul's powers shortly after he won election, was too far in terms of a separation of powers. And not that most folks follow this, but I'm sure some folks were thinking, wait a minute, I thought they upheld all the lame duck laws. Well, yes and no. When a conservative controlled court upheld the lame duck laws a few years back, they did in that ruling leave open the door for future challenges that were a bit more specific. And that's what this ruling is. It looked at specific applications of the law and said, and even the conservative justices agreed that in these specific cases, the Republican-led legislature and its Joint Finance Committee cannot stop the State Department of Justice from engaging in settling certain civil lawsuits, that is a separation of powers. And so you had all the justices today agreeing with that. And it just makes me wonder how many of those conservative justices, saw the split in legal definition, and how many were, well, back then going, oh, yeah, of course I'm going to stick up for the Republican side. And now they're looking at it and going, yeah, that was probably an overreach. And getting back on the right side of, the Constitution.
Oh, that pesky thing, that
Yes.
Constitution thing. Yeah, so it's like nice try and nice overreach, guys. And you don't get to have a snit because you lost an election and then attempt to strip powers from the party that beat you. That's essentially what this is.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's. I mean, look how late this is coming. These laws were passed in 2018. Josh Call, fortunately won another term in office, so that this case is still relevant. We had to wait for the Supreme Court to turn over because of the voters all these years later for them to get back on the right side of the law. So, yes, justice was eventually done, but always how they got away with it for so long.
But this is just part and parcel of what the Republicans in Madison are trying to do at every step. It's like defang the AG. They want to take away powers from the governor. They can't pass something in the Assembly and the Senate. They're going to put it in the Constitution. They're going to diminish the seats on committees. They're going to, even though fair maps happen, we're gonna fight until instead of just for a moment saying, hey, let's compromise 10% more of the time.
Yeah. No, that is
10.
never been.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Just 10.
And this current budget, quote unquote, proposal, that's that word's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Proposal, stripping everything out, and now just saying, well, if you don't like it, too bad, and trying to make Tony Evers the bad guy.
Again, with a $4 billion surplus,
Yep.
there's ample room for win-win. You can get, and Governor Evers was willing to meet them on the tax cut end of it, and they were unwilling to meet him. So now you get this chatter that we talked about this morning from Senator Chris Kappinga of Waukesha County saying, well, maybe we shouldn't even pass a budget, which is something that I said back in January. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't pass a budget because they're just so tired of Governor Evers, partial veto powers being able to prevent them from ruling with an iron fist the way that they'd love to on this stuff.
A question I have for you, Pat, because I don't know the procedure. I know that in U.S. form, we have to pass a budget. It's in the Constitution.
Right.
That's why we constantly see CR resolutions and things of
Kicking
that
it
nature.
down the road.
Right.
Does Wisconsin have the same thing? Or if we do, because with regard to what happened in Minnesota, one of the reasons why Democrats voted for that thing is because the government would have shut down
Yes.
July 1. Is that if they don't pass a budget is Kapenga, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kapenga's delight.
Yep.
Does that just happen? Does Wisconsin just shut down?
No. The way that Wisconsin wrote its rules is that if there is no state budget, then the current budget, instead of expiring on June 30th, will just continue. When I was my first year in the legislature, 2007, we didn't get a budget done until the middle of November because of fights over health care. Republicans did not want to go along with our plans for more affordable health care. So the old budget continued. And the point I was making this morning is that this is now probably what Republicans want, because while there won't be anything new in it, it also will enable them to say, well, this is the most fiscally conservative thing to do. So the most fiscally conservative thing to do is to be lazy and go home
Yes.
and
Yes.
not do your job. And with a $4 billion surplus, not fix underfunded schools and things like that. So the surplus sits there. And as we were saying 4 years ago, they're hoping that in next year's gubernatorial election, if a Republican wins, now they'll address the surplus by giving it all back to tax cuts, toward the wealthy. So not passing a budget, it does have political risk, but they're also looking at it as a way to say, oh, this was our only option. No, your option was to do your job and actually negotiate.
If you're just joining us, Pat Kreitlow is our guest. He is the host of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow across the network from 6 to 9 a.m., talking about the Wisconsin budget and now something sent out by Chris Kapenga essentially saying, yeah, if we can't agree, then we're just not going to pass anything. And I thought it was because I was listening to you on the way in, Pat, that he even rejected the proposals from the Joint Finance Committee, which we know traveled around the state and listened allegedly to people's concerns and then rejected everything the people wanted and came up with their own budget. And he still rejected that.
Yeah, and I think that was partially a head fake, trying to look like, a maverick when I think this may actually be the caucus's position, and he's kind of the canary in the coal mine. He's floating the trial balloon, whatever analogy that you want to use. But I thought it was really something when he said in his social media post about it, he was criticizing the Joint Finance Committee version, written by his fellow Republicans, that it doesn't do enough to address wasteful spending. Well, who's been controlling the legislature for 14 years? If you're attacking wasteful spending, I mean, you're telling on yourself.
Yeah. Also, get your own material, bro. Ron Johnson's been doing this at the federal level for weeks now. Are you our little Ron Johnson?
What happened to GOAT? What happened to GOAT?
That's right.
In Wisconsin?
Oh my gosh. I completely forgot about the Wisconsin Legislative Republicans version of Doge.
Yes.
Oh my
GOAT.
I got to look it up. I'm sorry.
What
government
happened?
oversight.
You have something, and
Yeah.
they're going to find all
Accountability
of this waste and fraud and abuse in Wisconsin. Again, using Doge as their model, and it
They're
was
just-
all about GOAT. And it
I
goes
love
back
it.
to what you said, Pat. They're auditing themselves or they were supposed to be auditing themselves
Yes.
because they're the ones who have been in control for almost 15 years.
They've become the Elmer Fudd of fraud hunting. Be very quiet. I'm hunting for waste, fraud, and abuse. And
It
not
says
finding it.
Here, according to WPR News, in an article put out in March of this year, Wisconsin's version of Doge called GOAT is getting started. It stands for the Committee on Government Operations, Accountability, and Transparency,
Oh.
or GOAT.
GOAT.
That should be the official. Every time that they convene, it should be GOAT, and then just the Bulls intro from 1990s.
We can make an intro for
I
them.
really think that should happen.
We can do
Yep,
that.
Yeah.
There is some talent in that building. You can do
Oh
that.
yeah,
Yes.
we got resources. We got resources. But yeah, that has completely disappeared. When
Yeah.
is the last time any of our Republican lawmakers have been touting all the great work of GOAT?
No, and
Probably
if they
since-
if
Go
they
on.
can't, if they can't, I just think it lends into this potential strategy of saying, well, we're just not going to pass anything. And look, with enough money in political ads next year, maybe they can convince voters of that. But I think voters would look at it instead and go, you guys keep taking like 6 to 9 month paid vacations every
Yep.
year. Why don't you do some work?
Yeah, get something done, maybe. There's a thought. We're going to continue our conversation with Pat Kreitlow. You can join us at 855-752-4842. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvitini on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up later on today, 2 to 4 on the Todd Alba Show around 2:35. Todd will talk with James Small. He's a rural EMS outreach program manager at the UW School of Medicine to talk about the status of rural EMS response. They are hurting and they need more folks. And in the 3 o'clock hour of Todd's show today, it's a Tex-Mex fast food edition of What's Worse. Love What's Worse.
Oh, now I want a burrito.
Yeah.
Not until you listen later on today. Todd Alba from 2 to 4 p.m. Our guest you can catch every weekday morning from 6 to 9 across the network. Pat Kreitlow, host of Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, is our guest. And we wanted to talk a little bit. We were talking about, good heavens, the Wisconsin Supreme Court all agreed on something, which is pretty remarkable. Also kind of remarkable, or maybe not. Was it Friday? It was Friday, when President Trump essentially told ICE to back off on farm raids, back off on restaurant raids, back off on hotel raids. That's over. That's over.
Allegedly. And to focus on those big, bad sanctuary cities where apparently the work that they do for the economy is different because it's in a blue city as opposed to working on a farm or, say, at Mar-a-Lago or other hotels and resorts and things like that. So, again, it's a nakedly partisan move to say, well, we're going after brown people, but we're going to go after brown people more in blue cities than we are in red states. But either way, we're trying to make the white people happy that don't want any brown people around. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I think, this goes back to the beginning, and we talked about this at the very beginning. He is nothing if not transactional, our president.
Right. Yeah.
So you do something for me, maybe I'll do something for you. And even before he was reelected, we were talking about he will dole out favors depending upon who donates to him the most. If you don't help him, if you don't donate to him, if you don't give him money, you're on your own. It doesn't matter which state you are. Look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders asked for help in Arkansas after some storms. Josh Hawley asked for Kansas. Mm-hmm. West Virginia just got crushed by flash flooding. They've lost 6 people have died in West Virginia, and now FEMA's gone.
But Jane, he said to the oil industry executives, you raise $1 billion for me and I'll get rid of all the environmental laws. And I don't know what the final tally was, but he's got work to do transferring all of that middle class wealth, to things like oil company executives and things like. We don't have money just lying around for natural disasters or things like that. I got to take care of the people who took care of me, which is not the flood victims in West Virginia or storm victims in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, wherever.
If you won't make a simple phone call to Governor Walz in Minnesota to say, hey, how you doing? It's tragedy. Even for a base level surfacing thing. Not even compassion, just doing it because that's what the president does. He's not going to do this. And I want to dispel all the rumors of anyone who's see these coming through for them. No, it's because probably 2 or 3 billionaires said, hey, I got a lot of people who work in the fields. I got a lot of people who work at restaurants and hotels. Can you please
back off?
It's not for the people. It's for those guys.
That's right.
That's exactly what it is. And he heard from enough of them about this particular business sector because it is always about business. In business, we've all read A Christmas Carol and everything else. Some people see absolutely no room for compassion in business. It's just, does it make me money? Does it keep me in power? And I don't have time to go through, as Trump called it, a waste of time to call the governor of Minnesota, who just lost a friend and had this terrible tragedy befall them by somebody who was clearly triggered, no pun intended, by the language that Trump and others use.
We talked about this before you joined us in the first half an hour of the show, Pat. And I go back to, again, this is why Derek Van Orden, this is why Mike Lee, this is why so many other Republican politicians have, they don't think twice about posting heartless, cruel things because they're just following the example at the top, which is Donald Trump. And apparently now we are teaching our children to never accept responsibility only if it's good. Always blame other people. I mean, these are his attributes. This is who this man is.
Well, soulless. I mean, it's what it is. And I think even though we come back to this moment every so often, I think even now we may underestimate the importance of this one event, which seemed perfectly normal at the time, but now it would be so abnormal. And that would be John McCain taking the microphone away from a woman who was saying that Barack Obama's not an American, etc. And John McCain said, nope, he is an American. He is a good and decent man. We just happen to disagree. You cannot possibly have a moment like that anymore on that side of the political spectrum. And I mean, again, it shouldn't be a historic moment, but in hindsight, gosh, was it ever?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that this morning. We were talking about the budget, and I just thought in my head, I even say it out loud. I just said, I wish John McCain were still alive, because I just want to see him walk down to the floor of the Senate and look at or look at the president of the Senate and just thumbs down and walk away. But
we do not have those profiles and courage anymore. Occasionally, people express concern. A Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, but that's all we get.
Lisa Murkowski is so concerned. I just can't
So
take
concerned.
it anymore.
they're always concerned.
Join him weekday mornings across the network, 6 to 9 mornings with Pat Kreitlow. Thank you so very much, Pat. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you. See you later.
We got news coming up next. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Good morning, Major General. Can you hear me all right?
I can, absolutely. How about me?
You sound good. We come back in about 2 minutes.
Very good. Thank you so much. Shoot. Oh, man.
Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us. Call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. Or you can leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Delighted to be joined by a frequent guest of ours. And if you watch cable news, he has been all over the place on shows much bigger than ours. Retired Major General Randy Manner is here. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Jane and Greg and Calvin. Good to see you all again.
Appreciate you making time for us. There are a lot of things going on. I wanted to start off with a little bit talking about the big parade on Saturday, marking the 250th birthday of the Army, also in conjunction with Donald Trump's 79th birthday. There were a lot of comments that I saw, Randy, about the lack of precision, I guess I would say, in the marching that was displayed. And there are some folks who think that that was deliberate, that was a deliberate sign from our troops, maybe kind of a passive-aggressive sign from our troops that they really didn't want to be there.
Okay, so first of all, I need to thank all the members, past and present, of the U.S. Army for celebrating 250 years of service to our nation. It is absolutely amazing that we have been able to sustain a heritage of service to our citizens and defending our country. And so my sincere thanks go out to every single soldier, past and present. And my thanks to all the soldiers that were in that parade. I need to tell all of your listeners, soldiers hate parades.
I bet.
I hate parades. When I was a lieutenant in the 82nd Airborne, which many of those soldiers were from, we did a probably, I think there were about 10 to 14,000 member pass and review, which is a huge monster parade. And it was very old school. And we practiced for days and days and days. And then uniforms had to be perfect. And It's not what we do, and we all hated it, and it's horrible. So my heart goes out to all those soldiers that did it, and good for you for following your orders and for doing it, and I'm proud of you for doing that. At the same time, we hate parades. I've celebrated birthdays for the Army in combat zones. I've done it in the Pentagon. I've done it at Fort Bragg. I've done it literally all around the world. And the Army concept of a celebration of our birthday is we have a birthday cake, number one, or many, depending on the number of troops.
Sure.
We invite up the oldest member of the group, the youngest member. They cut the cake, not the colonel or the general or the sergeant major. They cut the cake. We have brief, and I mean 3 or 4 minute speeches by a few people, the senior enlisted leader. We ask the junior person to speak. And we have cake, and we have like an hour break in the day, and we celebrate us, and we celebrate us, and we tell stories, and it's very low key, but yet everyone appreciates the cake, Unfortunately, that's not what happened here on Saturday.
What I'm hearing from you, sir, is you take an hour out of your day to celebrate the culture of the military and what you have done, because more than that, honestly, is a diversion of time, manpower, resources, and you got to get back to work and do the thing. Whereas this parade, and I share your feelings about this as far as them coming here to Washington and doing what they were told to do to celebrate. I get that. But that is a massive diversion of resources, time, manpower, projects that are not getting done, work that's not being done, all to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, when you said perfectly, they don't want to be there.
Right. And Jane, answering your question specifically is that in contrast to the Russian parades, the North Korean parades, where you see everybody literally marching perfectly.
Yes.
Well, those are typically because they spend hundreds and hundreds. I mean, literally, we're talking hundreds, not tens, but hundreds and hundreds of hours practicing. Well, what are they doing? They're practicing marching. Now, in the United States military, thank goodness those days that I was involved with as a lieutenant many decades ago are long gone. We don't march. The only people who train how to march are ceremonial units, like the 3rd Infantry Regiment out of Fort Myer for funerals and for state events. They've got to look sharp. Their uniforms have got to be super straight, and it's like that's an honor for them to do what they do to represent the military with foreign dignitaries and for burials and so on. The average soldier, including me, we barely go left, right, left, right. So in answering your question, I don't think it was a deliberate act to say they were basically protesting silently. I don't think so. I really don't. That's too many people. It's unlikely. I think it's because we don't practice that.
Well, and I think you make an excellent point. Good heavens, they are trained to go to war.
Yes.
They are not trained to march in formation. They are not trained to look like a marching band. That's not what our troops are trained for.
Right.
And it makes me think, Major General, that when we look at these troops in North Korea and Russia, you almost have to wonder if they have a unit that isn't specially devoted just to that.
Well, but remember, there are massive numbers of those soldiers that are in those parades. I mean, massive numbers. We had whatever it was, 6,000 or 7,000. They will have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000, all marching with just as concise movements. It is a very large parade. And so you probably have seen memes all over the place with, Putin and the leader of North Korea laughing at our soldiers and so on. And our tanks being, instead of it being 200 tanks, there's only like 50 tanks. Well,
Right.
The point is, our military trains for combat, and that is what we do. And we are excellent at it. And everybody in the world knows we're good at this. We're not trying to beat our chest. That's why we don't have parades like this.
Right.
We will see you on the battlefield. We're not going to see you on the parade field. So I don't think this was a silent protest. I think it's just indicative of the fact that, thank goodness, and I hope it never changes, we don't devote lots of time to practice marching.
Yeah. Sir, one of the things that we talked about last week, I think this parade is indicative of where the administration has gone, because we shouldn't forget that he wanted to do this in his first term, and the people around him, the guardrails essentially,
Yes.
whether it was military or just even in the White House, said no, we can't do this, we shouldn't do this, it doesn't look good. I don't know if you were there, if you were still working at the time, but it shows just that the guardrails are gone. He can do whatever he wants, and everyone's going to say, yes, that's a wonderful idea. Let's have a parade. But also, was there any, in your experience, any president or anyone who said, maybe we should have a parade? That would be a good idea.
So it's important to look back in history. The United States has had military parades.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at the end of World War I, at the end of World War II, after Desert Storm. However, it was in the moment. It wasn't like, let's have a parade today.
Yeah.
And the idea that it was a 250th anniversary, yeah, whatever. I mean, that's just not good enough. It's not worth spending all of that taxpayer money, your money, my money, and all your listeners' money to put that parade on. It was obvious, and it was sad.
It was.
Frankly. All the empty bleachers. I mean, it was just absolutely feeding the egos of the people that were in those stands right there in front of the White House or the side of the White House. And it's just very, very unfortunate. It was an absolute inappropriate use of taxpayer money and of soldiers' time. I need to also comment, I have stood in Red Square. I have stood in Tiananmen Square. I have stood in North Korea on the edge of the DMZ. I have seen the way that dictators use their military not only to, quite frankly, show their might on TV, but also, quite frankly, it's a threat to the people.
To their own people.
Show, hey, don't screw with us because these guys could be in your backyard tomorrow. And by the way, it happens all the time. And that is something where we must not ever allow this to be normalized. It is absolutely not right to have soldiers and Marines on the street of LA. I am appalled. The president has approved 700 additional people for Florida, Texas, and somewhere else. I just saw the press release, Texas, Florida, Louisiana, to help with ICE operations. We've got to get the military out of this business and turn it over to those that are trained to do this. It just appalls me. It is a misuse of, again, we need these scarce, highly trained resources to practice and do the things they need to do to protect the nation.
Yes.
Not to implement his policies internally in the United States.
If you're just joining us, retired Major General Randy Matenaer is our guest with the U.S. Army for more than 30 years, talking about all the many developments around the second Trump presidency. And going back to what you had said about Trump sending in troops into L.A. without the request of the governor, without the request of California's attorney general, the LA police chief, the LA mayor, no one requested this. And now I also saw this morning that they are planning on more ICE raids in blue cities. Now they're going to concentrate on blue cities. I can only imagine, Randy, that the troops have to be appalled by this duty.
So I have been talking with only a few dozen people in the Guard and in active duty. And it's important for your listeners to hear, while of course the exact details are still working their way through the court system, it is my opinion these are probably legal orders. I mean, that's my opinion based on being the Vice Chief of the National Guard, the acting Vice Chief of the National Guard Bureau. And given that they're legal orders, the military is obligated to do it. Now, make it right? Well, of course not. Is it a gross misuse of a scarce resource? Absolutely, it is. What we are seeing is two important things. Oh, before I even say my two important things, I want to applaud the law enforcement of Los Angeles. They are doing a wonderful job keeping things under control. And this is, again, a law enforcement operation, not a military operation. I say again to your listeners, this is a law enforcement operation, not a military operation. There is zero need for those military. There's zero need, especially Marines. If that's not using military to intimidate the local population, I've worked with Marines all over the world. Marines have one objective: go kill that target. Okay, boss, I'm going to go kill that target. I'm going to knock it down. And they are the best in the world at what they are trained to do. That does not make them qualified in any manner of any imagination to put them in with United States citizens literally feet apart. That's not right.
We're going to continue our conversation with retired Major General Randy Matenaer on the other side. Stay with us. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvinator on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Our guest is retired Major General Randy Matenaer. Spent more than 30 years in the U.S. Army, talking about a number of things, including President Trump's birthday parade, ostensibly to celebrate the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army. Greg and I have talked about this, Major General, weeks before you joined us, that the Navy and the Marines got to feel kind of bad because they both have birthdays this year too, and they don't get a big splashy parade. But
please don't think that. We don't know what's going to happen yet.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. You had a couple of points you wanted to make before we had to go to the break.
Yes, please. Whether you live in a red county or a blue county, no matter where you are in the political spectrum, there are two things that every American should be concerned about: the deployment of American soldiers and Marine within our cities, towns, and so on. And the first one is everybody. Our First Amendment rights to free speech are absolutely being trampled. This is critically important for everybody. I don't care who you are to understand this is the beginning of this crackdown. Number two, the federal government is absolutely stomping on states' rights to govern themselves.
Yes.
And again, this is a common theme. I don't care if you're red or blue. Leave the darn states alone to do what they need to do to take care of their citizens. This idea of calling in the National Guard, taking it away from California and saying, nope, sorry, you are an idiot. You are, I don't like you because you don't agree with me, and therefore I'm going to take over stuff in your state. That's just so anti-American and so anti what we all should be appalled about as Americans, no matter what end of the political spectrum we're under. So that's about
Absolutely. But you're so right, Randy, and I think you make a really good point as well, just about the visual intimidation factor and how that gets into your head and how that works its way into people's heads. And I think it's really important that folks keep that in mind. And like you said, this affects all of us. Red, blue, green, pink, whatever.
And one of the things we've said before many times on this show is that, yes, you may love the administration, the president, whomever it is, but when they are pulling things like this and testing loyalties and deploying troops and police on places who disagree with them, there will come a time when you are in their crosshairs because you won't be enough, or you'll just be collateral damage because they don't care about you enough to say, well, does Steve like us? Nah, I don't care. So at some point, you will be in their crosshairs. They will find you not
Loyal enough
for them.
Right. That's what we all need to be concerned about is federal government, leave us alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you said, Randy, the Republicans have all been about states' rights. It's all about states' rights. Send it back to the states. Abortion, send it back to the states. It's all about state rights, except when it's not, except when they don't want it to be.
And that's really where we have to have the discussion and the soul searching for those people who are not members of the cult right now, is for those people who have the ability to look within themselves and to talk to their neighbors about what really is going on. Then there is some hope for them to see this is not what America is about. Those members that are of a cult, the leader can do no wrong. We already know about that.
Yep.
But for everyone else, we need to stand up and we need to provide hope to our neighbors, to each other, to our children, that they can grow up, quite frankly, being all they can be, using an Army recruiting slogan. Sorry. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we saw this past weekend was millions of people marching peacefully through the streets saying, this is not what America is. This is not us. We are a group. We are about freedom, and they've weaponized the word freedom, but we are about standing up and utilizing those rights that are in the Constitution that our leaders are supposed to be defending. Thank goodness lawyers and judges are doing that right now. But yeah, I think that hope I saw this past weekend.
Yes, I completely agree. That was what was on display. And it's also something where whether you are poor or you're middle class or you're rich, anywhere in between, we all got to get through this thing together. We've got to get through this together. And this issue about immigration, it's very important for me to remind everybody, 97% of every human being in the United States is an immigrant. 97%. So sometimes you got to get off all your high horse and say, well, wait, I just don't like brown-skinned people. I mean, come on. My great-great-great-grandparents immigrated from Germany in the 1840s. I'm an immigrant, or I'm a descendant of immigrants.
Yes.
Yeah. And we all are. We have, 97% of us are.
Well, and statistically, again, if you want to look at the numbers, immigrants to this country commit crimes at far, far lower rates
Yes.
than do actual citizens of this country.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, I will tell you that the immigrants that I know in the neighborhood here in Virginia, unequivocally, and by the way, please understand, I am 100% for holding lawbreakers accountable for their actions. 100%. No doubt about this.
Yep.
At the same time, I'm going to tell you that the far overwhelming majority, which is typically far more than people who've been here for generations, they are extremely hardworking. They take the jobs that no one else wants, and I'm so proud of them that they're part of our society.
If only we would put some more money towards fixing our immigration system, that would help a whole lot of folks and help
Agreed.
our country at the same time. Randy Manor is a retired Major General with the United States Army. Sir, thank you so very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jane and Greg and Calvin.
Thank
We
you,
have
sir.
news coming up next. Keep it here. You are listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Galby on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us. Call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Thanks to everybody who took part in our Civic Media statewide Text to Win Scotty Summer Contest. We had all kinds of winners, people who either picked up a hot $100, some Brewers tickets, and our grand prize winners, either a getaway in Dork County or Baraboo with a gas card to get you there. Trace listening on WMDX in Madison, and Melissa listening to WHSM in Hayward. Well done. Congratulations, our grand prize winners. And just make sure you have the Civic Media app. We will have more contests coming your way. Our Ticket Fridays resumes on Friday.
And for those who won tickets or who won prizes or are going to win Brewers tickets or the two winners, when you're out doing the things, send us pictures.
Yeah, we'd love to
see pictures of your vacation, family-friendly pictures. But like, just we want to see you out and about and having fun, and it's good stuff. Hey, I'll even take a picture of you refilling your car with a gift card, that thing we gave you. I mean,
that works too.
Take us with you.
Take us with you, yeah, and let us know. You can always send it in to Jane Says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS, Jane Says at civicmedia.us. That reminds me, we have This Shouldn't Be a Thing coming up in a little bit to wrap up the show. Today it is the Take a Seat edition with a visual element. I encourage you to stick around for that. You can also check it out a little bit later on our website at civicmedia.us. Right now, though, wow, this turned into something we weren't expecting.
This became a thing.
This became a thing yesterday for Audio Sorbet, the segment of the show where we like to take a breath, get away from the news, talk about sillier things, lighter things. So yesterday we were talking about bagels. The big question was bagels toasted or no?
Mm-hmm.
Well, after the show, every day, Calvin picks a section of the show where it goes into a
chat.
A chat.
Yeah.
A chat room. Here's the segment to highlight from today's show.
Yeah.
And so Calvin included the bagel question.
Yes.
Bagels toasted or no? So within this chat, this internal chat within Civic Media, this turned into a thing.
Yeah, this became a heated debate on the topic of first of all, we get things done here. I just want to put that out there. We do good work here. Everyone here works hard. We got projects we achieve. We got things we got to take care of, and we work together as a family, and it's wonderful. But holy crime in Italy. Holy mother glory. I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh my God, there are opinions.
There are opinions. So here's kind of some of what happened in our Civic Media chat yesterday after the burning question of bagels toasted or no.
Pun.
Aaron Zommers, I'm offended that this question was asked. I love bagels, toasted or untoasted. Fair enough. You called him a snowflake.
Snowflake.
Casper, our friend, one of our engineers, toasting just seems like an unnecessary roadblock to me getting cream cheese into my face. Then again, so does the bagel itself. Just give me a spoon and a tub of cream cheese.
And that brings me back to my question from yesterday. Why, if we just want to have some salsa, some cream cheese, some peanut butter or jelly, or what, some schmear.
Yeah.
Some schmear.
Little schmear.
Little, like a green onion schmear. You're like, oh, I love that on a bagel. I just love the schmear. Why can't I walk into a room with a little thing of schmear and a spoon and be like, how's everyone doing? And then I'm looked at like some ill-equipped pariah.
You're a Philistine.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's just not socially acceptable.
I say fie on social acceptabilities in the construct. You do what you want.
Sommers continues. Again, this is within the group chat yesterday here at Civic Media after bagels toasted or no. For the record, I disagree that cupcakes are a frosting delivery system because that came up in the discussion as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for the cake with a little bit of frosting. I have and will continue to scrape frosting off of cake or cupcakes that have like 3 inches of frosting on the top. Casper chimes in, me too. Too much frosting is gross. Then Corey Hartman, also one of our engineers, exactly. And buttercream for me. No stupid sweet 10 cups of powdered sugar.
Once again, we do get work here done.
The things actually get done.
Uh,
And then Jacob asked, do you toast your cupcakes? Which took
Jacob-
it off an entirely different direction.
Jacob's a new guy. He asks weird questions. No, I mean, and when I read that, my first thought was toasted cupcakes. That sounds like a toasted bottom of the cupcake. Ooh,
You think?
why not?
See, I am not a cupcake. So so
You're
here's,
totally a cupcake.
I am not a cupcake fan
Yeah.
because to me, and I'm sorry, Aaron Zommers, a cupcake is a frosting delivery system. If I get a cupcake, I will rip the top off
Yeah.
and only eat the top.
So you take all right. So you're
I take the frosting part off, and that's the
are
only
you the
part
same
I
way
eat.
with muffins? Like you only eat the muffin top?
I don't muffin.
You don't, oh, wow.
I don't really muffin.
Wow. I didn't realize you were rich. Because I told you how I eat cupcakes. I take the cupcake.
Which is smart.
It's not, and it doesn't really work with small cupcakes because you can just pop those like
It's a one bite.
one and done. But with a traditional size cupcake or a little bit bigger, what you do is you take the top, you got to have big hands.
Mhm.
You take the top
Mhm.
and then you take the bottom and you twist apart.
Okay.
And then you place the bottom of the cupcake on top of the cupcake, smush it down, and you have a frosting sandwich.
Oh, frosting sandwich.
Yes. I mean, that is a perfect delivery system, especially if it's a nice, I'm sorry to say the word, moist cupcake. You get the frosting, you get the cupcake portion, the cake, and it's all very good. Or in your situation, you just want the frosting.
Exactly.
It just does the job.
So here's the question: frosting or cake? 855-75. I know, hard lines here. 855-752-4842. Audio sorbet today. Frostings or cakes? What are you leaning towards? Calvin, how do you feel about this?
Well, I promise I'm not doing this to be political.
Oh, no.
I'm a bit of a Goldilocks. Like, it's all about the ratio. Like, it's got to be just the right amount of both. For frosting on a cupcake, I would say should be about 70% cake and 30% frosting.
I mean, that makes sense.
I think that's a fair ratio.
I think that very much makes sense. If you had 70% frosting and 30% cake,
And then it's too much.
you're just, you just want frosting. I get that. That makes you a centrist, a person who wants to bring balance. That's a good balance.
Balance to the world.
But you also said you love what did you say? You love vanilla frosting and what kind of cake?
Yellow cake.
Yellow cake. So it's also, and I mean this with love, it's a basic cupcake, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can throw some sprinkles on there if you want.
Oh, that's a whole other discussion. I didn't think we were going to veer off into sprinkles.
Sprinkles, that is another one too. Oh, well, I enjoy a sprinkle.
I went pro sprinkle.
I'm pro sprinkle.
Sure.
I love metallic looking sprinkles.
I like the even they're not really chocolate.
No,
though,
they're
are
not.
they?
No, they're not. No,
They're more like kind of coconut, actually.
Oh, get out of here! Ugh,
I know you hate
Now
coconut.
I'm never going to eat that. Ugh. All right, I have a new position. No more sprinkles.
Okay.
They're the devil.
Andrew from Maine texting in: a cupcake without frosting is a muffin.
That's a fair point.
That's an excellent point, Andrew. Carmela from Milwaukee: does this make Jane a cake topper? Ha! Instead of a muffin topper.
I feel like
I like
can't,
that, Carmela.
I feel like no matter what happens, I can't say anything to that statement. That just sounds like I'm going straight to HR. So I'll let that just hang in the balance. Let's see here. Cassandra on the live stream says powdered sugar frosting is delicious. I don't care what anyone says. All right.
See, I'm sorry,
Powdered-
Cassandra. I would disagree. I'm with Corey on the buttercream or sour or cream cheese. Cream cheese frosting.
A
is the
sour cream
best.
or a cream cheese. Oh my gosh. Get in my face.
Tasty.
But
Calvin?
what is powdered sugar frosting?
It's just powdered suger and a little milk.
Okay, I guess either I've never had that or I've never noticed it. This is a new thing for me. I'm learning. Jane, I'll never
expanding
I'll
your,
never evolve
your
if I don't.
frosting options.
Yeah, I'll never evolve if I don't learn.
Look at what you learn on this program.
Yeah.
855-752-4842 if you would like to join our conversation. Frosting versus cupcake.
Who does? I'm sorry. Is there anybody out there who's like cupcake, no frosting.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Oh, there are anti-frosting. I know there are anti-frosting.
But I feel like they
people
don't
out
even
there.
go near the cupcake then.
Then they
and
would go for the
and
muffin.
it's not even a cupcake, because a cupcake in essence is a cake that fits in the size of a cup. A cake denotes the cake
Depth.
itself with the frosting. Right? Am I wrong?
Well, a cake can also have layers in it.
Oh, I love layered cakes.
You're diverting
With a
into a whole nother topic.
We're talking about dessert, Jane. I haven't even gotten on the Jimmy's versus Sprinkles
right.
section of this discussion.
855-752-4842, talking about frosting and cupcakes and muffins and
Oh, my.
tops. Roger from Stevens Point texting in, I buy the excellent muffins at Quick Trip. To me, they are larger cupcakes without frosting.
And that's would you agree, Jane, that muffins, I know you don't enjoy, but I think, well, no, you don't enjoy them. But I feel like muffins now, like muffins when I was a kid, there was poppy seed muffin, there was a bran muffin.
No one eats
plain muffin. Why don't you just punch me in the face? But now it's like super double chocolate vanilla dipped in this blah, 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 muffin. It's like, this is just a dessert.
There's 47 things in it.
Yeah, we realize how bland and boring muffins are, so we have to throw on 9 layers of sweet to get people anywhere. And then people have the audacity to say, well, I had a muffin for breakfast. No, you didn't.
Yeah, you had a snack.
Yeah.
You had a treat. Cassandra again on the live stream. The grocery store cupcake frostings are the worst, though. They're always way too sweet, and the food dye stays on your face all day. I'll take your word for that, Cassandra. I appreciate that.
Tom from New Berlin, listening to WAUK, says buttercream frosting. My mother made wedding cakes with that. Me and my siblings would fight over licking the bowl. Oh, yeah.
Buttercream frosting.
Oh, buttercream frosting.
Andrew from Maine, all frosting is great.
Disagree.
I agree. But as I get older, like Calviente, I strive for a more balanced ratio between frosting and frosting delivery system, be it a cupcake, cake, graham crackers, celery sticks, etc.
Whoa. What?
Why should frosting be limited to cakes?
No. I'm not. Hey, I'm on board with
Okay.
your dessert
you're pro.
lifestyles. I'm
Okay.
pro dessert and pro you living your life. But I have never heard anyone using a celery stick as a frosting delivery device.
But see, celery sticks are like peanut butter delivery systems.
It's a fair point. Both sweet. You're right. You're absolutely right. I guess it's that thing of like, it's never crossed my mind. Therefore, now I got to go home and find, because I know we have
We're gonna
frosting somewhere.
Think about it all the time.
I'm going to do it when I get home today. I'm going to put a picture up there. Be like,
It's our
Thursday.
goal to eventually see people just carrying around tubs of cream cheese and frosting. And that's how we'll go through life.
How did Greg die? Massive heart attack from celery sticks and frosting. Huh?
When we return, we will wrap up the show as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it is the Take a Seat edition. Again, if you ever have a thing that you think this just should not be, send it in to Greg and me. Stay away from politics. Jane says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS. Jane says at civicmedia.us. Stay close. We will be right back on the Civic Media Radio Network. Don't go away.
You gave me love when there was none. You know you're the only one. Here it's in my heart to stay. I want my baby back again.
morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvinator on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. 855-752-4842. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Some much warmer weather coming our way. Just a reminder, keep an eye on elderly neighbors and certainly your pets. Be careful with your dogs. It's supposed to be 90 today, and I was looking ahead a little bit, even into next week.
Yeah.
So you can feel the dew points rising.
Oh, yeah, this morning, it's when that thing of, you want like, I get up early and you get out of the car, you get out of the garage, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a nice breezy morning. You're like, oh, it's warm.
You can feel the moisture.
Yep. Wow.
So just keep an eye out for your pets and each other. And just a reminder as well, if you are looking for something new to style over the summer, rumor is
what?
There's new merch coming.
Oh,
Matenaer On Air merch. Not yet. In the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
In the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So we will give you a heads up when that becomes available. Matenaer On Air merchandise. You can find it at civicmedia.us. Click on the shop button and pick up a new t-shirt.
Yeah. Or something else.
Something else.
Who knows?
Exactly.
Stay tuned.
10:54, Calvin. That means it's time for...
This shouldn't be a thing.
As we always say, if you have a thing you think should not be, send it into Greg and Mia, Jane says, at civicmedia.us. This from Mediaite. Ahmad Austin Jr. with the byline. The headline reads, watch. Tourist flees Italian museum after sitting on Van Gogh chair and crushing it.
I mean,
last week at a museum in Verona, footage showed a man and a woman posing next to a chair in the museum, the Palazzo Palazzo Maffi.
Muffin.
That too. Posing next to a chair in museum. It was created by an Italian artist. It's called the Van Gogh chair because it is a tribute to Vincent van Gogh's 1888 painting, Van Gogh's The Chair.
Very convoluted.
This chair was adorned with Swarovski crystals.
Yeah.
First, the woman squatted next to the chair as if she was going to sit on it. The man she was with took a photo of her. Moments later, they switched places. This is where the mistake came in. After remaining in that pose for several seconds, the man then tried to sit in the chair covered with Swarovski crystals. Unsurprisingly, the glass chair immediately broke. It just shattered. He sat on the thing and it just shattered. The woman quickly helped the man up, and then after taking a moment to realize what they've done, they ran out of the museum. Museum director Vanessa Carlton telling the BBC this was a nightmare. Of course, it was an accident, but these people left without telling us what they had done.
Mm-hmm.
This is a nightmare for any museum. At the time of the writing, the people in the video had not been identified. The museum has not given an estimated value for this Van Gogh chair.
I don't want to ask, but I'm going to ask. Do we have any idea where they were from?
We do not yet. I know you're afraid they're Americans.
I am both terrified and not shocked.
I do want to say, though, that my husband and I have done some traveling and done quite a bit of traveling overseas. And we were at the Louvre in Paris a number of years ago. And there were people climbing on statues that were not Americans.
Why was there nobody there saying, hey,
well, because
get off the
get off the statue.
Yeah.
Eventually someone came around and said, don't climb on the art. But as a species, I just don't know how bright we are sometimes.
I mean, this is just the... There are little ropes around it. That is the international sign of don't.
Yeah, of don't sit
or
here.
Or you can't get in this club yet. I mean, it's one of the other things. And that is what it makes me... That is why I think it was two Americans. They saw those ropes and go, it
doesn't apply to us.
I'm fine. Well, I want to sit on a bumpy glass chair.
Well, we will keep an eye on this and see if they ever find the perpetrators. Hopefully they don't belong to us.
Yeah, I hope they're like Canadian or like
Yes.
Swiss or
Somewhere else.
a country that we're jealous of, or Minnesotans.
We'll just blame Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Minnesota people are too nice. They would
I
never do
know.
that.
Oh, they would definitely own up.
You're right. You're right. And then they'd bring a new chair. that wraps up today's episode of
This shouldn't be a thing.
Coming up on the show tomorrow, Dr. Kristen Lyerly is going to join us after 9:30. A number of things happening in the news, including an article in today's Milwaukee Journal Sentinel about a woman with a pregnancy that needed an abortion and she wasn't able to get the treatment that she needed. Her experience, along with much more. We will talk about that tomorrow coming up with Dr. Kristen Lyerly. Thank you, Greg and Calvin and all of our engineers, because without you, nothing works. And thank you most of all for calling and for texting and for listening. It means the world. I hope you find some joy today and you have the chance to share it and keep it right here. We got news coming up next, followed by Tom Hartman from 11 to 2, Todd Alba 2 to 4, Maggie Dawn 4 to 6, and the fantastic Pete Schwaba from 6 to 8 p.m. We are the Civic Media Radio Network, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Keep